But the matter of World War, the economic and political condition of most of the countries of Europe had become very bad. According to an estimate, more than 5 crore people were killed in this war and millions of people were living in poor conditions in refugee camps. Ariel, due to the complete destruction of Europe's industrial complex transportation infrastructure, ports and merchant ships, the US immediately after the war, the economic reconstruction of the countries of Western Europe and the United Nations to stop the growing influence of Soviet Russia in Europe. But by 1946, US President Harry S. Truman was beginning to feel that in this way he would not be able to stop the growing threat of Soviet Russia in Europe. To deal with this threat, he announced the Truman Doctrine. Under the US promise to provide political, military and economic systems against the authoritarian force to democratic countries, this doctrine has reached the limit and brought the European Recovery Program for European countries. Gaia, also known as the Marshall Plan, is considered one of America's most successful US programs, under which 18 countries of Western Europe were provided with the US for economic reconstruction. Under this plan from 1948 to 1951, about $13 billion was given. Between there has been a decrease in the trend of people towards the socialist movement, as a result of which I not only brought political stability in the Western European countries, but the integration of the European economy also helped these countries to develop a common and free market. Whether only European countries benefited from the Marshall Plan, or did America also benefit directly or indirectly? Today we will try to know how Marshall Plan gave priority to American interest in this in the long term. How did America benefit the most from the plan? So let's first understand the features of the Marshall Plan in detail without delay, which will facilitate us to understand how it was beneficial for America. What is this Marshall Plan? US Secretary of State John. The plan was named Marshall Plan after C. Marshall. George C. Marshall first presented the outline of this plan during a lecture at Harvard University in 1947. The main objective of this plan was the cities damaged by the war in Europe, and basic reconstruction of infrastructure was to remove trade barriers between European countries and prevent the growing influence of Soviet Russia on the countries of Western Europe. Under this plan, 18 European countries were given about $13 billion between 1948 and 1951. Under the Marshall Plan, the US had formed a regulatory body called the Economic Administration. The ECA strictly monitored the funds given under the Marshall Plan, which provided direct and approval of funds according to the priority of European countries. An organization called the OIC was established, which acted as a nodal agency to implement the key component of the program and reduce trade barriers, helping European countries to change their economic policies by taking funds for development from the Marshall Plan. ECA also provided information to European industries on ways to increase productivity and improve management through this program. Until 1951, by European industrial production increased by 55% and agriculture production increased by 37%. George C. Marshall was awarded 19. This prize was awarded in 53. Let us now see what benefits America has from the Marshall Plan. Profit for the US. At the beginning of the 20th century, America had emerged as a major industrial country in the world and was free in international trade. The market was demanding the elimination of access and trade-related barriers, but at this time his fund was not to put a leg up in European affairs, but in the end he was forced to interfere in both worlds. The European countries had not only supplied military arms, navigation machinery and food, but had also given a huge amount of loans which these countries had to repay. But due to the war, the economy of the European countries was completely ruined. In such a situation, these countries used these loans. Thus, after the Second World War, when the European best old world order was disintegrated, America got a golden opportunity to fulfill its geopolitical interest and create a new world order. Let us now try to know the Marshall Plan as how America helped to create a new world order. Soviet containment information update. Through this plan, America also wanted to reduce the growing influence of socialist ideology and Soviet Russia in Europe. The Eastern Bloc consisted of Soviet and its satellite countries, such as East Germany, Belarus, Ukraine, Poland, Hungary and Czechoslovakia, etc. And the Western Bloc included countries such as West Germany, United Kingdom, France, Belgium, Italy, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Austria, Spain, Portugal, Luxembourg and Turkey. And while the countries of the Eastern Bloc under the leadership of Soviet Russia represented the socialist ideology, the countries of the Western Bloc, led by America, represented the capitalist ideology. The situation had arisen, which at any time had the possibility of turning into a real conflict, first through the Marshall Plan, Greece, and funds were provided to Turkey. Both these countries were located close to the communist bloc of Soviet Russia, and the political situation of both of them was very bad, so the US felt that there could be a coup in these countries also by communist supporters if the countries had come under the influence of Soviet Russia, then Soviet Russia would have had direct access to the Mediterranean Sea, due to which there was a danger of blocking the oil supply from the Gulf to Western Europe, so the US risks increasing the influence of Soviet Russia in these countries. With the Marshall Plan in mind, keeping in mind the collective security of Europe under the leadership of America, the Atlantic Organization NATO was formed, thus through the economic reconstruction of the European countries and the formation of Western Europe by the Marshall Plan, and stop the expansion. Let us now try to know how not the Marshall Plan, how American companies benefited. Profit for American companies under the Marshall Plan. European countries got the raw material they needed, and the manufactured goods had to be bought from America, due to which American companies got access to European markets. Earlier, European countries had posted heavy tariffs on the import of foreign goods into their markets, but after the Second World War they had to give up their protectionist economic policies. Both America and European countries benefited from this. American companies exported machinery, food, raw materials to Europe, while on the other hand, trade fairs have been made to promote European products in the American market, resulting in an increase in the export of European products. In this way, Europe and America were connected to each other through logistic supply chain. How free trade between Europe and America was encouraging. After the start of the Marshall Plan in 1948, the US not only got access to the European market, but also promoted the economic integration of the Western European countries, which was happening in Europe. The possibility of conflicts has also been reduced to a great extent. Seeing the benefits of economic integration later, the European Union was formed in the Western European countries. In addition, it also pressured European countries to liberate colonies. Economically shabby European countries anyway, they were not able to maintain control over their colonies for a long time. In such a situation, these colonies became independent one by one. After the independence of these colonies, America would have a big market available in the newly liberated countries without any restriction. During this, America tried to include more and more countries in the capitalist bloc. American value introduced America as a soft power by making it a world standard. Chongqing Singh with the financial assistance given by the US soft power Marshall Plan. American social and artistic values was once popular in Europe. Just as the Marshall Plan had helped in the economic reconstruction of Europe, in the same way in Hollywood films, America was shown as a world savior. In these films, America was seen as a defender of freedom of speech, free will, entrepreneurship and democratic values. It was shown that Ubisoft like Cola, Pepsi and McDonald's fast food restaurants etc. had a deep impact on the food habits of Europeans. American consumerism also had a profound effect on Europe. Along with the increase in production, consumerism increased in European society as well. The effect was that American values became the world standard that was promoted by Americans throughout the world. Conclusion: the Marshall Plan is considered one of the most positive examples of America First policy. Truman and Marshall believed that if Western Europe would soon, if the reconstruction is not done, then the public will lose faith in the liberal democratic government, and the European public will start giving preference to the populist authority-run race. In such a situation, America's own security is affected if the most important training partners and important are weak. The successful operation of this program led to the growth of Americans' influence in global institutions and the global economic structure. After 1948, the United States began to play a decisive role in policy making of global institutions, such as the United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund. All these institutions made available financial and development assistance and services to other countries of the world. In this way, the rules and regulations of the global world order were made keeping in mind the US interest. Due to the preference of the dollar in international trade, the US dollar became one emerged as a global currency, and most countries keep their forex reserves in the US dollar, resulting in America's economic and foreign policy. The economic and foreign policy of other countries started to affect this as well. Thus we can say that in view of its long-term economic interest, the Marshall Plan was started by America and its maximum benefit was also America. It was only this program that tied the common economic and geopolitical interest of Western Europe and America in one thread.